Now, on the show, we'd like to talk about a very serious subject. Did you ever wonder what would happen to your children after you'd passed away? Well, it's not really a huge problem for most folk because their children have the basics to survive by themselves. But some children haven't, and we're going to find out about those now. I'd like to introduce to you all Tony Murray, who is the founder of the Before We Die campaign, and you'll find out what it's all about very shortly. First of all, Tony, it's great to have you back, and thanks for talking to us at Disability Matters.
Not at all, a pleasure.
You might remind us what the campaign is all about and how it started.
Um, Essentially, it started when I turned 69 and I realized I was older than my two grandfathers who died at that age. And suddenly you realize, oh, I'm getting old. So by the time I started the campaign, I would have been 70. And realizing that there was no plan for my daughter Aoife, who's 42, absolutely no plan. Then we got a letter from St. Michael's House to say that their waiting list for residential was closed. I didn't even know there was a waiting list. I didn't know if Aoife was on it. I assumed she was, but she wasn't. And then there was an article in the Irish Times about the waste of money by the HSE, and that just sent me into apoplectic rage. Millions squandered and lost, not collected. Wrote a letter to the Irish Times. It was picked up uh, by the radio, did radio interviews, and literally from last October, from a meeting in the Handball Alley in Crow Park in Aoife's Arch Club, it's grown to we've met the Taoiseach, so we've met Simon Harris, Norma Foley. I've been made two presentations in the Dáil, another presentation in the AV room, and it's just been almost a full-time job. I think it just shows you the pent-up demand and the worry
Yeah.
that parents have. So it wasn't as though that we were amazing at gathering people. People were looking for something, were worrying on their own, sleepless nights on their own, thinking they were the only ones who had the problem. So what we've done in a short few 7 months, you could say 8 months, is we have built a campaign, but more importantly, we built a community.
And that's
That's the
important.
that's the really important thing. So parents are now talking to each other, they're sharing stories, and they're realizing that they're not alone. They have similar concerns. So we're turning that community, you could say, into a campaign. So it's a campaign that's built a community and a community that's building a campaign.
Now, I didn't ask you this last time, but I'm going to ask it now. What are you looking for your daughter? What's the ideal situation?
We have got 8 demands, and we have spent a number of months honing these down to 8. And the demands are really quite simple and sensible. So our first demand is that there's a funded emergency plan for people over the age of 70 who are providing full-time care. There are over 2,300 parents over 70, some into their 80s and some into their 90s, providing full-time care for their
Wow.
adult sons and daughters with ID. The other thing that we're looking for as well is that when the child becomes an adult at 18, is there's a register of every adult, now young adult, and that would be a register of needs. So what will they need in terms of residential? Most people know that anybody with intellectual disability will need some kind of residential care package, whether it will be full time. Some might live with support, and some might live in the family home with support, but that needs to be registered. And the other thing that's really quite important is that parents are spoken to when the child becomes an adult, that the service providers talk to parents who will know them, and they talk about the future. So the service providers don't talk about the future, and parents are left in this kind of, well, I want to, I suppose you could say head in the sand for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. So that like parents are now beginning to actually think and talk about what will happen. And at least when their adult is young, 18, 19, 20, they have energy and they can start campaigning. Not like me, head in the sand until I'm 70, and you could nearly say it's too late.
Right.
I mean, those are the three. The housing application process for social housing is an absolute mess. So you have to apply, in our case, Dublin City Council, but whatever council you live in, it goes into the City Council. They don't have any expertise, any department that deals with disability. So we're applying for social housing. You have to. It's ridiculous, but you have to. But Dublin City Council could turn around and say to Aoife that, as in one case, a member, their daughter has Down syndrome, that she's 1,600 on the list for a one-bedroom apartment in Coolock, but the girl or woman has got Down syndrome, she's mobility issues, and she's showing early signs of dementia. A
Wow.
complete, utter waste of time. She will never move. So you're wasting Dublin City Council's time, but when you apply to Dublin City Council, they don't go back to the HSE and match the two. So the HSE won't give you a care package unless you have like a house, apartment, whatever.
Yeah.
But Dublin City Council won't move you into an apartment unless you have a care package. So
Wow.
classic, like catch 22. So we're looking for a one-stop shop that parents can just go to one agency and apply for housing, and they would manage it and they would coordinate it, because at the moment only 2% of parents have a written plan for their son or daughter. That's 2% of a survey we did of 1,000 people. So effectively, no parent has a written plan for their son or daughter. Um, there's a real issue which we only discovered in the past few weeks, a real issue with funding. So there's two funding models. Now, I don't want to make this complicated. There's a funding model called CAS, C-A-S. That funds 80% of buying a house. Okay, let's
Right.
imagine St. Michael's House. So they get 80%, but it doesn't cover the renovations or the upkeep. And although St. Michael's House and most of the service providers are approved housing bodies, there's another fund which is called CAF. I don't know what it stands for, but that funds the house 100%. It funds the maintenance and the renovations or the changes to bring it up to HICWIT standards. And it's an ongoing funding. The only people excluded from that funding are people with intellectual disability. So the agencies like Michael's House, John of God's, whoever, they can't buy a house because they can't actually renovate it because they've no funding. So it means that the landscape now is full of private for-profit companies who are building houses in the Midlands and not in Dublin or in the towns, and waiting for the parents to die. They bid for the care package, and basically they charge double what, let's say, John of God's or a Vista would charge.
Yeah.
So they're making a fortune. So effectively, our adults they become a commodity for companies to get very rich on.
Very
It's
sad,
shocking.
isn't it?
Shocking. Shocking that the most
Absolutely sad.
vulnerable now are a cash cow for shareholders. And that's what's happening. And because of all the blocks in the way with the funding, the agencies like St. Michael's House, Vista, John of God's, whoever, they don't have multi-annual funding, so they can't plan. And their funding they're on a year to year. But then when you go back into the HSE, when they get funding for disability, it's not ring fenced. So if there's an emergency somewhere else, they will cherry pick and they'll take the lowest hanging fruit. They'll take it from disability. So it's not ring fenced. So you can see there's a whole structural like issue in terms of bureaucracy, policy, funding. It's a total mess.
Yeah.
And I initially, when I started the campaign, I assumed it was just money, but now I've realized it's money and attitude. The government's attitude is essentially leave it to the parents, until they die. That's a cheaper option. Even if they have to pay double for Aoife's care, they know that Susan and I and parents will stick at this until we drop dead. So
Yeah.
they're thinking, well, why would we do 40 years, let's say, or 30 years of care for Aoife? If we leave it to the parents, we might only have to do 10.
Wow.
It's a really cynical approach.
Now, you brought it to some great forums, or fora is the word. Can you tell us a bit about the meeting you had with the HSC?
I've met the HSC a number of times, and I asked the HSC, can you just do a single A4 sheet, this, the steps for every parent and service provider, and like that could be distributed because people are going to their service provider, they're going to their politicians, and they're getting different stories. You need to
Yeah.
fill this out. No, you don't need to fill that. Each each city and county council have a slightly different attitude. And it's like, can you just do a single sheet? And they said they couldn't.
My
So here's the
God.
HSE who can't do a single A4 sheet. The
Wow.
other thing that we have spoken a lot about to all the politicians, and they haven't retracted the letter, is the letter that was sent in February to a mother in Cork, which from the HSE, which stated that as a parent she has responsibility indefinitely to provide for her daughter. Her daughter now is 22.
Yeah.
So we have a letter from the HSC saying that parents like me have to provide care indefinitely. We're the only group
Yeah.
in in this country who have to provide care. So there's a legal so we're looking at that, taking it to court.
Right.
So you have that kind of attitude by the HSE. So essentially, what we are saying constantly, and we say to the HSE, there's a culture of bullying, it's heartless, and it's totally unsuitable for the needs of people with a disability.
Yeah.
We said that to Simon Harris 2 weeks ago about the letter. He apologized for the letter, but the letter still stands.
Wow.
So you have a real legal contradiction here in that we have this letter, but with the Capacity Act, everybody under the Capacity Act, once they reach the age of 18, has full capacity. Even if you're non-verbal, if you're multiple, severe, in law, you have got capacity. So you have full
Wow.
capacity in one law, and the HSE is saying that parents are responsible indefinitely. You couldn't make it up. It's
No.
as I've said before, somewhere between Monty Python and Kafka.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
bunker. It's dreadful.
And then I did hear something then, I saw a bit of it. The Social Democrats, who
Yes.
very eloquently brought up your group and the
Yeah.
fight you're on.
Yeah.
I didn't see whether they got any answers.
Uh, they had a private members bill, but no government TD is going to oppose it because they know
Right.
what they would get at the ballot box. But so it's just a bill, it's not a law. So they nodded through and now they can ignore it. Now, what was good about it is that it brought it to the attention of the Dáil. So we had the attention of the Dáil last Wednesday week, I think it was. Yeah, last Wednesday week. I wasn't there. I was on the Camino. But so that's good. And in some way, what we're having to do is educate TDs as much as educate parents and media. A lot of
Yeah.
TDs don't really know the broader issue. They're used to dealing with individuals, they'll make representation, but they don't understand the broader issue. So it's a case of educating them. But the good news is, we have to have some good news that down in Cork, um, that one of our members, Sinead McGrath, has done amazing work. So Cork City Council and also Cork County Council are now appointing a liaison HSE. They're the
Right.
first they're the first two councils to do that in the country. So at least now we'll have a template. I met the Deputy Lord Mayor of Dublin yesterday and said this is what Dublin City Council needs to do. All the councils. She's making presentations to about 5 councils in the next few weeks. And just keep in mind, she's a mother of twins with
Yeah.
special needs, and this
Wow.
is what she's doing. Like, it's incredible the amount of effort. We also found out how many people over the age of 70 live in each county. When we asked the HSE, do you have that figure? They didn't.
Of course they didn't.
But we got it simply by going to the Central Statistics Office
Yeah.
and getting it from the census. But here you have the HSE with all their staff who don't have that simple figure. It's
Wow.
absolutely shocking. And
Yeah.
again, a mother of somebody with fairly challenging needs, very challenging needs, she could do that. So we're doing the job in some cases of politicians, and certainly we're doing the job of HSE. We're actually educating the HSE as to the mess of the problem. But they're
Right.
in, I would say, they are talking to us, which is good, which they weren't a
Good.
few months ago. So that's good. We have another meeting on the 25th, I think, with Aoife O'Donoghue. She's the kind of lead in the HSE for disability. But it's an uphill struggle. And I think what the government are banking on is over the summer, we'll just get tired and disappear. But the other good news is we have booked the Helix Theatre, 1,200 seater, for a meeting in September.
Brilliant.
So, but that meeting is not going to be just rallying the troops. It's going to try and get people into smaller groups, constituency or county, to get people in Kildare talking to each other.
Yeah.
So then they go lobby a TD, they're lobbying in a group and they're supporting each other,
Brilliant.
because you need that. Most parents haven't the time and don't know how to lobby. They haven't done it. They go to their TD, the TD patronizes them, but we're going to do training on how to lobby your TD.
Wow.
So we're going to ramp it up to a level that is, we hope is sustainable, because it can't all be on me or on the committee. People it needs to be a ground and supported from the ground up rather than really top down. So I think we're making progress.
I did hear the Taoiseach talking about this subject, and his answer is, sure, we invested 600 million into residential care.
Yeah.
They didn't really, did they?
You see, when they talk about how much they've invested, well, what do they want people to do with a disability? Just die?
Yeah.
Just go away? They're there. They're citizens. they've we've spent huge effort on getting Aoife to make her as independent as possible, as
Good.
most parents do, school, all of those things. And now they're kind of saying, oh, but sure, look, we're spending so many millions. When I was in the Dole committee a few weeks ago, I said that was cold comfort to a woman called Gladys, who featured on the primetime program. Gladys is 71. Her daughter, Jessica, who I know, is 45. Her
Mm-hmm.
husband is 77. Jessica had a stoma bag, has mobility issues. She can't be let out on her own. You've a whole range of issues. But Gladys's husband is 77, dementia and wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
So I said at the Dole committee when they came back and said, we're investing, we've spent so much money. I said, well, that's cold comfort to Gladys.
Yeah.
I mean, tell that to Gladys she's not had respite in 23 years
Wow.
and she doesn't drive. So if, or when Jessica becomes like an emergency case, she'll be picked up possibly by a for-profit company, moved down to somewhere Kildare, Offaly. So how is Gladys going to get to see her?
Yeah.
Or how is Jessica going to see her dad because he's in a wheelchair? And so what's happening is that they're moving them to rural parts of the country. So even if you think, well, it's in Kildare, it's not too far, but if you get a bus to Naas, you might have to get a taxi out to the house. that's going to cost a lot of money to get a
Yeah,
taxi back to Nate.
absolutely.
It's absolutely outrageous. So what I'm saying is that when they shut down the institutions, they uh, uh, so you could say the high walls were the institutions. They've knocked down the high walls, which is good. But
Yeah,
now what they've done is they've built a wall of distance. So
yeah,
if your child is in Cork, which could happen, and you live in Dublin, how are you going to get to see them?
yeah.
At
It's
best, you see them once a
disgraceful.
week. But this
Yeah,
is what's happening, and people need to wake up to this. And this is actually what's happening. It's not might happen; it's happening. So I think Liam Quaid of the Social Democrats. I don't have the figure, but there was about 300 people over 100k placed in residential units over 100k from their home.
oh, wow.
Now that's really worrying because who's watching out for them? It can lead to neglect, and
Yes,
neglect can lead to abuse.
of course.
If families aren't going in and out and keeping an eye and picking up on changes, like we would know Aoife, and we'd know when she's upset. We'd know even by looking at her, yeah, okay, something's not right. Now it might take us a while to work out what's not right, but if you're not going down and she gets withdrawn, doesn't see family, she'll probably get depressed. She could act up and they'll just medicate her if she acts up. And if she gets depressed, they'll just think, oh, she's depressed. But I mean, of course you'd be depressed if you lost your parents' house, family, service. Who wouldn't be depressed?
Now, unfortunately, the person at the other end who's making that decision sees a person and a bed and matches them. They don't care about all the work that's been done behind by
No,
parents. They don't care
no,
about the relationships or
no,
anything like that.
no, no. You're effectively from the HSC, you're a problem. We solved the problem by going to private for profit companies.
Yeah,
Problem solved. Their problem is solved, but you just made a problem for the family and for the most vulnerable who, like I say to everybody, you have to remember Aoife's horizon is very narrow. It's her home, her day service, her arch club. She doesn't have anything else, my sister
yeah,
as well. So that's her world. And so she doesn't think of, oh, well, I could live in Australia, I could go here.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's not, so suddenly her world is literally taken away from her. And that's what happened during the pandemic. Like it took us a while for us to realize that Aoife thought she was the only one not going into service.
Yeah, of
And we had
course.
to tell her, and I had to do a video of the empty building to say, nobody's here. But in Aoife's mind, she just thought she wasn't going in.
Yeah. And she did something wrong and all that
Yes,
type of
yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
goes through your head.
yeah, yeah,
Graceful.
yeah,
But
yeah.
tell us, what's next?
Well, the Dáil is in recess from yesterday.
Of
Uh,
course.
we're going to meet with some of the professional advocates down Syndrome Ireland, Family Cares Ireland, Inclusion Ireland. And to be honest, and they mightn't like me saying it, they've been asleep at the wheel,
Yeah.
like on this issue. Um, when you look at their websites, there's very little about about the housing crisis. Very little. They're coming around to it, but it's very slow.
Yeah.
And so we're meeting with them. Well, we'll set up meetings with them. We have another meeting with the HSC next week. There's a disability show in Knock in August, so we'll be attending that with a stand and lobbying and making our presence felt. And then our big meeting. And what I'd love to do is have another chat with you coming up to the meeting and talk specifically about the meeting.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be able to come along and we meet in person
Oh,
and
wow.
meet people. I think it'd be a fantastic
Of
opportunity
course it
to
would.
make.
Just let me know when it is.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at the 19th, Saturday, the 19th of September.
I'll make sure I'm there.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a really great occasion because of just getting people together. And as you said, one community, many voices.
Yes, that's it. Now,
Yeah,
will you send me an email with that date and time?
I will, I will,
Sorry,
I will.
date,
And like,
place, and time.
yeah, and what you might like to do is set up a table with your banner and publicize this.
Of
This should be
course.
great. So people will start logging into it, and the more, the community builds,
That's
and
what
the
it's
community will
all
be fantastic.
about.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. So we're not going away. We're taking a little breather, and then come August, September, it'll be, because then we'll be coming up to the budget. We're looking at doing, because we'll have people together in September. So we're looking at producing a series of cards that people can send to their TDs, and a very simple idea: bumper stickers used in
Yeah.
America. And we'll have those for people to say, put on the back of your car before we die, campaign message, whatever it'll be. And people will start seeing it and saying, oh, yeah, I know what that's about.
Yeah.
We have to keep reminding people why we're here, because most people, even with the campaign and friends, people look at me and say, oh, so Aoife still lives at home with you. And you kind of go, yeah,
Yeah.
like they're like, people genuinely don't know. I met a minister, a junior minister, a few months ago, and I was with her for about 20 minutes. And she said, so your daughter lives with you still at home?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually said, I didn't say fuck. I
Yeah.
said, why the hell, why did, why the hell do you think I'm here, minister? Oh, so you're talking a lot of ignorance, lack of understanding. I think politicians show empathy, but
Yeah.
I think the problem is nearly so big that they can't grapple with it. I go back to the Taoiseach. He was very disingenuous when we met him, and he said in the Dáil that they have a cabinet subcommittee on disability, and that they meet.
Yeah.
And we assumed that housing would be discussed. A parliamentary question asked by Liam Quaid, I think it was, or one of the Social Democrats, asked them for the agenda of the various meetings. Housing didn't come up once.
Yes. I'm not
Human rights.
surprised.
Well, I was surprised at how disingenuous he was. That he gave the impression, he didn't say it would be, but the impression is, we're talking about housing. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
there's a cabinet subcommittee. You would assume in that sentence that he will be talking about it. You just would say, decency would say they'll talk about it, and they might have talked about it in the past month, but we don't know. But a parliamentary question, housing didn't appear. So that's what
Wow.
we're up against, is that kind of cynicism, and a kind of everything is kicked to touch, and all the kind of platitudes. At the Dole committee, one of the Fine Gael TDs was thanking me for my efforts, and I put my hands up and said, just stop. Just stop. I don't want to be. I'm doing this out of fear and love
Yeah.
for my daughter. I'm not doing this for praise. So please stop. I shouldn't be here. A man of 71 should not be here lobbying to have a safe, secure future for his daughter. So that's my attitude towards it. Stop patronizing parents. Do something about it.
That's it. Tony, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for talking to us again at Disability Matters. When you send me that date and a
Yeah.
venue and so on, I'll make sure I'm there.
Look forward to meeting you all there.
Lovely to talk to you.
Great. Thanks a lot.
All the best. Bye bye.